So you kicked off this album on a high note. Why was it so important for you to start with something that was so uplifting?
Because it uplifted me. Um, God is good. That's a song that I learned over. Learned and loved it over the pandemic, and I started singing it. I taught it to my praise team at church. A friend of mine recorded it years ago, and it just dropped back in my spirit. And so the more I started singing it, the more I was like, this just feels so good. And a friend of mine was like, you should record it. And I was like, I should. And so that really was the only song that I planned to record. I was just going to record one song and call it a day. And then as we started recording and getting things together, I was like, okay, I'll do that song plus some ones I already know because I didn't feel like learning any new stuff. Then I was like, all right, well, once the creative process starts, then you do more. And so what ended up being a one song, I'm just going to do a single, turned into a whole project.
Let me tell you something, that Angel cover, that was like a warm hug. I said,
Yeah.
wow. When I heard it, I was like, okay, you ain't come to play. Why that one?
Again, over the pandemic, a theological university called me from New York, and they said, we have this event. It's called, I guess it's like an angel banquet. And they were like, we want you to sing angels. And I was like, okay. And it was send a video because that's what we were doing in the pandemic. And so could not find a track for it. I called Richard Smallwood and I was like, do you have a track for angels? He was like, nah, baby. So I was like, okay. A friend of mine found one buried way down in the internet, tweaked it, and I went in his studio and recorded it. And literally, Kayla, it was like, gosh, this is what's happening now. God is literally dispatching angels around my home, around my family, around my circle of influence, my pastors, my friends. He was protecting us at every juncture. And so angels meant definitely something to me when I recorded it years ago with Richard Smallwood. But the more you keep living, and that's what my mom says, you just keep living. Yeah, you're going to see example after example. And definitely during the worst of times, to know that I had angels literally going, no COVID cannot come down. Your dwelling was a blessing. So I had to do it just for my own self.
My investigative skills
Yeah.
make me believe that the one he kept for me, if I got the title wrong, I
Yes.
apologize. But the
No.
one, would to say that for sure, is it a
Yeah.
wedding song?
It is a win. I got the coolest friends in America. So again, I had another producer friend. This was years ago now. This was like before I had probably just been married about 4 or 5 years, hadn't even had my first kid yet. And so he's like, I'm making a wedding CD. I want you to come sing on it. So I was like, okay. And that was a song he chose for me. And at the time, I just was like, all right, I sang it. I looked at the words on the paper and I was like, you good? We're good. All right, fine. But when I tell you, people have gravitated to that song. I have wedding planners that suggest that song to brides. They're like, you have to hear this. And it has millions of streams on the internet. And I'm just like on YouTube. And I'm like, that's not even a song that I thought would even be a big song for me, but it is. And I get testimony after testimony about brides that say they walked down the aisle to it. Everybody was crying. I had another bride that sang it when she was coming down the aisle to her husband. Of course, I get asked to sing it, but I'm like, oh gosh, weddings. So but I just, again, it was a song that I was like, you know what, this has so many views. And I really wanted to be intentional about attaching my face to the song that I recorded. So we actually went and did a video, a really nice setting. Actually, the cover for the project is the video for the one he kept for me. So you'll be seeing that soon.